Good day. My name is Terry DeFazio, and you're watching Dial It Up. Today on our show, we have two Newport City Council members, Jack Roberge and Steve Vincent. Gentlemen, it's good to have you on the show.
Thanks for having us, there.
Thanks for having us.
Now, both of you served before on the City Council, didn't you?
Yes, that's correct.
25 to 30 years ago, was it?
Yes.
That's correct. Yeah,
Okay.
In the late 80s. Yeah.
Late 80s?
Yeah.
Okay. Can you tell me the similarities and differences between serving then and serving now?
Well, I think that there's always the constant struggle to keep the tax rate down while still providing the services that we need for the residents of the city. The city is kind of unique in that we are land poor and infrastructure rich, so it's sometimes extremely difficult to balance those two things. I think one of the big similarities that I noticed is that the dedication of our employees hasn't changed. We have an extremely dedicated, hardworking group of employees working for us.
I'll talk a little bit on the differences. Some of the things that I see are quite a bit different today than they were back 25, 30 years ago is the open rules laws that they're on the
Open meeting
open
rules.
meeting laws.
Oh, really?
They've
Okay.
changed drastically because we used to go in executive session and we would actually discuss what needed to be discussed and then come out and vote. Now you can't go into executive session only for specific reasons, such as personnel or contract negotiation.
Yeah.
Anything else has to be done out in the open. By virtue, when we first started, we actually interviewed every department heads, and we had to do that in open session versus doing it behind closed doors,
Right.
Like we would have done 25 years ago.
Even though that's a personnel issue.
It wasn't really. It was more of an interview for us.
Oh,
because
okay.
we wanted to get to know the new department head because
Okay.
they were not there when we were there, when we were on back then, and we wanted to them to get to know us and see what our let them know what our goals were and what their goals were. We could have done that before behind closed doors. You can't do that anymore. So
I think transparency is a good thing, but
Yeah.
I think they may go too far in transparency, and sometimes it makes it difficult to do that type of business in open session. It's easier to be done in a closed session, and if there's an action that occurs, come out of that session and then let the press know or the public know what took place.
It always seems that there's no real, it's a balancing act, but there's no real balance. It either swings one way or the other.
That's correct. That's
that
what it
is very
seems like,
true.
yeah.
It's either transparent or it's opaque.
Yeah.
That's correct.
There doesn't seem to be any middle ground. What was your original interest for both of you to get onto the City Council?
Get back on now or get on back then?
Either way.
Yeah, well,
Either
back
one.
then I actually started with serving on other departments.
Oh, okay.
And I kind of worked my way up. I was on the planning commission for 4.5 years before I got on the council. Then
Mm-hmm.
it was just and I'd been on the fire department since the 70s. Before that, so it was just kind of a progression of serving. It is my community or our community, and I wanted to be as involved as much as possible. And then this time around, I'm getting a little older. I got more time on my hand. My family's grown up and gone, so I figured it was time for me to get back in and make some changes. It looked like some of the things have been kind of stagnant, and we wanted to. And there's a lot of changes going on in the city, and I want to be involved in it. As it was back 25 years ago, that's when we did. We worked on the state building that came in.
Right.
We redesigned all of Main Street.
The prison.
The prison we brought in, and now with what's going on with the development with JP and the biotech and the Main Street, I just feel like I'd like to be involved in that as well.
Mm-hmm.
For me, 30 years ago, I was encouraged by the public to run. I was kind of a greenhorn, raised and brought up here in the Northeast Kingdom, and thought that I should at least do my my fair share. So
Civic
I
duty?
ran. It's my civic duty.
Yeah.
What got me interested this time was I thought, a lot of transition going on at the city with Mr. Ward retiring after several years as city manager. I thought that I would like to be part of that decision as to who leads the city as manager in the future. I think we've chosen a very capable person in Laura to do that job. And like Jack mentioned, there's a lot of construction that's going on Main Street we'd like to be part of. And we've injected a lot of our ideas into what should go on at Prouty Beach and perhaps at the city dock. There's some improvements that we think can be made there while still trying to keep the tax rate down.
Yeah, that is another delicate balancing act too. And I'm probably, you guys feel sort of the same way I do. Is people don't want to pay taxes, but they want all the services.
Yeah, that's correct.
And really, you can't do that, can you?
Well, what we did this time around, our first year back, we actually we're working on all the improvements that Steve had just mentioned, but yet we brought the tax rate down where if things work out the way it should with the appropriation, we're actually going to be cutting the tax rate by a couple of cents, which
Yeah,
has
that's
not
what I
been
read.
which has not been done in years. And it's just a way of getting creative. When we did the budget, we went pretty much line by line and department by department, which that way, and we had a lot of input into what was going to be cut and what was not going to be cut. And we didn't have to cut any personnel, and we actually added a lot of services, especially at the campground, which has been, we raised their rates, but we needed to offer some services to offset that. And we're in the process of doing that. They're going to see some changes there next summer. I'm looking forward to it, such as a store, which the people have been looking for. They wanted some kind of little convenience store there, so they don't have to unhook their motorhomes and go into town to buy a loaf of bread.
And where was this, Jack?
It's going to be at the campground.
Oh, okay, right at the
Right
campground.
at the
Okay.
campground, yeah.
All right.
We're going to have a small convenience store right there on site.
Okay.
We're updating a lot of the facilities. We're repainting all the facilities because they need it. So, like I said, we've actually were able to cut the budget and still do some improvements by being creative.
I'm very proud of that budget, and I think one of the big key points about that budget is we were able to do it while still taking care of our employees. Our employees were not neglected. Services are maintained in the city, and we are able to improve areas like the city dock area where we're dealing with a milfoil issue. That's something that 30 years ago we were dealing with, and we're still dealing with it now. And I think the only way that we're going to solve that situation at the city dock area is to put mats down that prohibit the growth of milfoil. And we're currently looking at getting a grant that will allow us to purchase a harvester so that we can bring Prouty Beach back to where it can be used again. Works a lot like a hay harvester, actually, and clips off the milfoil so that it's not so encroaching on the beach area. We hope to get a floating dock out there eventually so that our citizens can use that again.
Yeah, I know that where I have a where I have a camp on Salem, they're always checking for milfoil. So far, they've kept it out of Salem.
Yeah.
But it's not an easy thing. And, of course, Memphremagog is a much bigger lake.
It's a very invasive species, and I don't think we're ever going to be able to eradicate it from our lake. But if we can at least keep it in control in those areas where recreation is taking place, I'll be happy with that.
What three issues do you guys see as the most important things that may have been overlooked over the past years?
Maintenance of our facilities, some of our facilities, especially our rec facilities. That's what Jack and I have been focusing on. The Gateway Center is a beautiful building in our city.
Yes, isn't it, though?
It's a welcoming center for those people coming in off our lake. And I'm not pointing fingers as to why it hasn't been maintained, but we'll move forward and get it up to specs again to where we can be proud of it. That's I think, one of the issues that we are dealing with.
That has, and not just that particular building. We have some issues at the park, Gardner Park, where some of those buildings need to be upgraded. The backstop of the little league field needs to be either torn down. That's getting pretty unsafe. I mean, it's
which field is that, Jack?
It's the backstop of Gary Rowe Field
In Gardner Park.
In Gardner Park.
Okay.
The grandstand itself has been neglected over the years.
Oh, the big ball
the big
field.
grandstand.
Okay.
Now to a point where we have to make a decision: do we tear it down, which I'm not too crazy about, because it is, it is a structure that's been there for many, many years, or do we spend lots of money to get it so it's safe and usable? So that's going to be a decision that we're going to have to make in the near future, because it does. It's not even, we can't even use it now. It's that unsafe.
And I do understand during tough budget times that those items are not necessary items for the city to function, but they are valuable assets to the city, and I think we can't neglect them. We need to maintain them.
Yes, I agree. I've never seen anybody sitting up in those grandstands, and probably that's because it isn't safe, right?
It's closed off completely now.
Oh, okay.
I mean, it used to, because I coached for many years. I coached Babe Ruth, and I coached Little League, and we used to use it all the time back then. But it hasn't been used in quite a few years. They use the field, but not the grandstand.
Yeah.
There's also the city barn issue that's out on Coventry Street, at the end of Coventry Street.
Okay.
Next to our arsenic treatment plant that needs to be either demolished or relocated somewhere. It's beginning to be a liability for us to have it there. That's something that we're currently looking at. We're hoping that we can get either barn restoration people or people that will come and demolish it for the use of the beams that are inside of it. We do have a gentleman that is interested in relocating it. I hope he's successful, a local gentleman. So that's kind of one of the other things.
Seems like you have your plates full.
Yeah, we knew that we went into it.
Yeah,
very much so.
Though there always is, you know.
Yeah.
How can someone bring an issue to the city council?
Very simple. They either contact one of the council members, or the most direct way to get it on the agenda is contact the city manager.
Okay.
And if it's an issue that she cannot handle, it's not. She'll have it put on the agendas for that issue to be taken care of.
Okay.
Our meetings are always open. Always open.
Yeah, that was going to be one of my next questions. Was how would you describe the current atmosphere on the at the meetings?
As far as the council is concerned, I think we have a very productive, cooperative council. I think most of us have our eye on similar issues that we're dealing with at the city. As far as our audience is concerned, I hope they feel free to voice their opinions and ask questions when they need to, and I hope that we're addressing them properly.
Yeah, because that's the whole idea of city government, is so that people can talk to you guys and you can talk to them, and it isn't like you guys are hermetically sealed.
No,
absolutely not. And like I said, transparency is a good thing.
No, and actually, at the beginning of every meeting, there's actually an agenda item that is open specifically for the public comments. That's usually the second item on the agenda, that we open the floor up to any comments that people may or may not have. And even during the meeting, as it progresses, we always allow people to speak on the issue if they have something they want to say, or any questions they want to ask. We had a little snafu a couple of months ago where the mayor tried to change that outline
Format. Yeah.
that format, but we put it back in place, saying that that's the way it should be. Way there, people, it's open, and if they have something they want to ask us, they can certainly ask, and we encourage it.
Not only that, Terry, I think sometimes my mind can be changed by opinions and comments from the public.
Yeah.
Oftentimes, they're more of an expert in what we're discussing than we are, and they bring to light things that we were not made aware of, and I think it's important to have that public participation.
Well, that's the whole idea, and you bring up a good point, Steve. How do you know what the public's thinking if they can't reach you?
Absolutely.
And by the same token, I'll give you an example. I've heard people griping about specific things, and I've gone to the mayor and I've said, I've heard this. Can you tell me what is the real story? And he said, well, this is actually what happened.
Okay.
There's always something behind there that you really need to dig in and find out about. I think it had to do with the demolition down on Main Street and why it was taking so long, and one of it was because of something that some piece of equipment that had to come in from Colorado.
Right.
Or something like that, yeah.
It's very easy to jump to incorrect conclusions when you don't have the whole picture.
Seems that's how some people get their exercise.
Yes.
Yeah, and they can always get a hold of us through email. If they go onto the city website, all of our city emails, because we all now have assigned emails through the city website, that they can go on there and shoot us an email.
Or call us.
Or even our phone numbers are on that same website.
Absolutely.
So all our contact information is there. If they don't want to, if they feel intimidated or for some reason don't want to talk face to face with us, they can certainly just shoot us an email.
What we have done this year, Terry, like we did 30 years ago, was the mayor assigned liaisons to different departments within the city, just to streamline exactly what you're talking about. I was assigned to the police department, so hopefully if anybody has a concern with PD, that they would first approach our city manager and our chief. And if they don't come up with a conclusion or aren't satisfied, I would hope they bring that to me. Jack, for example, has the rec department. Neil Morissette has Public Works, and John has the fire department.
Yes, and later on in the show, what I'll do is I'll ask you for your phone numbers and emails, and we will put that up on the screen so people can contact you if they want to.
Absolutely.
What major challenges do you think face Newport currently?
Keeping the tax rate down.
Keeping the tax rate down?
That is the biggest challenge that we have. Because like Steve said in the opening statement, we're really short on property. So we can't keep building because we're short on land. So the tax rate, to keep it down and keep the same services, it's a chore. I mean, it's not something that's easily done.
If I may stick my neck out there, Terry, I think in the long term, the only way that we are going to survive is to start combining services with our friends to the north, i.e. Derby. I think if our two communities can start sharing police, can start sharing sewer. Derby is currently at a position where development is pretty much stagnated unless we give them more sewer usage, and we're not willing to give that up freely because that may stymie our development potentials. So I think we need to have a cooperation between the two towns, and I think you would see us flourish if we could come to terms on some things.
Well, you brought up something earlier. I think it was you, Steve, that brought it up earlier, and you said that we're infrastructure rich.
We are infrastructure rich.
And they've got the property.
And they're infrastructure poor. So
right.
It's actually a perfect marriage.
You can't get much better than that, guys.
No. Absolutely not. And I don't know if I will see it in my lifetime, but I'm hoping that the guys in Derby are open to that, at least opening discussions about how we can share services. It would be beneficial for both towns. And I really think that you would see some reasonable growth if that occurred.
Oh, I agree. I agree with you 100%. I'd like to see it too.
Absolutely.
But you're always going to get a core group of people that don't want anything to change.
Oh, that's true.
Correct?
Very, very true.
I'm an old Vermonter. I don't like change either, Terry, but unfortunately, that's probably the only thing that stays constant in our lives, our change. And I think for us to survive, we're almost at the point where we struggle to keep the tax rate down, and we understand seniors are struggling to pay those taxes. We feel the pain. And I think that is a situation that would resolve that problem.
Yeah, but and you guys know this. I'm preaching to the choir here. That does not change will die.
Absolutely.
Oh yeah, that's true.
And if you don't want any change, and you don't want your taxes to go up, and you don't want any more services, your city will die.
Yeah, I think the theme that Jack and I ran on last year was that we need to push Newport forward while still respecting its past and honoring its past.
Yeah.
We don't want the character of our city to go away because of growth and development. Mm-hmm. Somehow we want to marry the two. We're very proud of our heritage in our city and what it is. We have run out of land, developable land, and we need to team up with somebody.
Yeah. I think what you said was absolutely true, Steve. I think that the merger between Newport and Derby would be very beneficial to everybody.
And if not a merger, at least sharing of services.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
I think that would be a good first step. And I think we have some similar thinking minds in Derby now that we can work with, I hope.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I know they brought in Walmart, and they've brought in a couple of other things like that. And, changes are going to have to happen like this.
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah, like even on the Walmart, we had to work together with them because we found out at the 11th hour that the road where the main entrance of Walmart's coming off is totally in Newport.
Right.
So that was a little bit of a surprise.
Absolutely.
One of the first meetings that I attended with Walmart was just when it was uncovered that they weren't coming in onto a state highway; they were coming onto a city street.
Yeah.
So we had to do.
No, the other end, the main entrance.
Oh, that one
The
up
main
there.
entrance, yeah, the main entrance is actually in Newport. And we get no tax benefit from it because we only own the road.
And it was quite a pricey project too. We had to go down and remove the cement that was under that old road, and we are responsible for maintaining that traffic light and owning it. So Derby did agree to team up with us, so we have agreed to 50-50 split that cost, even though we won't benefit from the tax revenues. Hopefully we'll benefit from the traffic and the extra revenue that brings to our area. So there's an example of cooperation that worked very well.
Well, I've been to a couple of Derby meetings in the past, a couple of years ago. I haven't been there since one of the meetings. And I have to admit, they look like a reasonable bunch.
Oh, they are.
They seem that way to me.
And they're struggling with the same thing we are. They want to deliver a low tax rate, which they've been able to do, but I think they're doing it while neglecting necessary services.
Yeah, it's going to come a day where they're going to have to put in some infrastructure to keep growing. And like I said, we have that infrastructure that we can share with them.
Yeah, well, it sounds like the two communities should try to work together and build together.
Maybe it'll be New Derby or something. What do you think?
Maybe.
New Derby. There you go.
Or Derbyport.
There we go.
The Derbyport Drive-In. There you
There
go.
we go.
There you go. Exactly.
I was going to ask you, how does the council determine what issues get top priority?
That's done by the mayor. The mayor sets the agenda for each meeting.
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
Not to say that we certainly couldn't bring any issue up under new business, which we have done in the past. If there's an item of high priority, it's usually on the agenda, and we deal with it. But the mayor basically sets that agenda.
Or else if we want something on the agenda, I just go to the city manager and she discusses with the mayor and it goes on. So I mean, we don't have to wait for new business if we don't want to. We can have it put on the agenda just by asking the mayor to do so. And he's been pretty
receptive to some of our
so far,
requests. Yeah.
How do you guys feel about having all your meetings taped and broadcast?
I think it's a great idea. We started doing that when I was on the council 25, 30 years ago. We were having it taped then. And then I guess it stopped for a while and it came back. No, we thought it was a great idea back then. I think it's a great idea now. Because a lot of the people can't go out at night.
Right.
And this way they can watch it at their own leisure.
Yeah.
Monday night at 6:30, a lot of people are feeding their families, or the elderly don't want. I don't blame them. They don't want to leave the house. It's their opportunity to sit on a Thursday evening in the warmth of their house and recap what we did. So, and it's good. I get a lot of great comments from it.
Well, I'm glad that's worked out for you. All cities are facing financial challenges. All cities are. How would you address balancing the budget?
Well, I think we've already done that, and I think we did it very well this first year around. It's a balancing act because everybody obviously has their hand out, and there's a lot of wants. For example, in this budget, Public Works, I think we funded them properly, but there was some equipment replacement they would have liked to us have purchased.
Right.
Just wasn't in the plans this year.
And another area where we cut back was on the Gardner Park renovation project that's presently in the works, which they wanted to go for a huge grant. And we look at the grant scheme of thing. We went with what originally started the whole project, which actually was the playground. So we were able to cut back on our share by cutting back the size of that grant and take baby steps versus because they're looking at about a $9 million project, which we certainly can't afford at this point. So and that's going to be revisited and still going through public hearings and all that.
Even though we had $4 a match for every dollar that we put up for that grant, I didn't want to bite off more than we could chew in a season. We're going to redo the playground. That was the original focus at Gardner Park. We will revisit that next year and perhaps opt for more monies to improve those ball fields. But currently those ball fields are very usable.
Yeah, I watch people playing games down there all the
Absolutely.
time, and it looks like they're always being used, and even that soccer field is being used. And
That's correct.
And that Little League field that we have there, the Gayer Row field, is used. It's used really heavily by Little League, but even during the summer, I see kids playing on that field all the time. 'Cause my office is right next to it, and I can see them. There's kids out there playing all the time, and it's one of the nicest Little League fields in the whole state. So I got to I'd like to see them preserve that if there's any way at all, rather than moving it. So I mean, there's still a lot of unanswered questions.
Yeah. How long is your term? And
2 years.
are you guys considering running again?
2 years, and yes, for me, absolutely. I think we've just started the things that we're talking about here, and I would like to see them through completion, yes.
Same here. I mean, like I said, when I signed on last year, decided to do this, I figured it's going to be at least 2 to 3 terms before we get things done that we wanted to do. So, and the other thing that I definitely want to be involved, because I was involved in the last big celebration, was the 75-year anniversary.
Our 100th is coming.
This time's the 100. I was involved with the 75, and that's something we got to start working on this year, because I think this is going to be our 100th anniversary in a couple of in 2017. So
18.
is it 17 or 18? I don't what's it say in your pen.
We'll get back to you.
Well, we'll get back to you on that one.
but
It's coming soon.
It's coming soon within the next year
soon.
too. So, and that's definitely something we need to start working on and really plan a big rollout for the.
My 50th class reunion is coming up on 2019.
Wow. Wow. I'm a firm believer that terms should be 4 years. 2 years is barely enough to get your feet submersed in there and start understanding what's going on. But anyway, it is what it is.
Yeah. So how long have you guys been on now? 1 year?
Well, we just completed a year. Well, we will, town meeting day will be a year. Yeah.
Okay.
And I
So
think
you'll
we've
have-
accomplished a lot in a year.
Now, did they stagger the terms?
Yes.
Okay, so how many run at a time?
Two.
Two? So this time in March, I take it?
Right, Neil and John have opted for re-election.
Okay.
I don't know if they have any opponents currently.
Last I heard, I talked with
I
Jim
have no
yesterday,
idea.
and nobody else has pulled a petition. So.
And the following year it'll be the mayor and Jack and I both up for re-election.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, that's good enough. How often do you meet, and where do you meet?
We meet twice a month, the first and third Monday of the month, and we meet right upstairs in the municipal building, in a council room. We actually have our own room that we meet in, which is large enough now, and it's bright colored like this. I think it sits about probably 50 people.
Mm-hmm. Do you get a lot of attendance?
It seems like it's the same people. I'd like to see different people. Depends on the item on the agenda.
Probably a dozen, I would say.
Yeah, we probably get about a dozen, which there's plenty of room for more. Depends on what's going on. Like there was a couple of meetings last year. Well, yeah, we had a full house due to the agenda that was what was on the agenda.
And sometimes we have to meet down in the gym, of course.
Yeah.
The Scott Farm, for example, was very well attended when the Vermont Land Trust came up here to present their ideas. So yeah, we have space for everybody. We often meet during budget season. We meet more often because we need to obviously get that ready for the city clerk and treasurer by a specific time. But that's fine.
But we also, I meet with my department head or with the city manager pretty regularly on a weekly basis, sometimes more than once or twice a week. Especially now that we just entered negotiation with the police department for their contract negotiation. So we'll be meeting with them pretty regularly, and we'll be meeting with the city manager.
But those aren't open meetings.
Those
are closed negotiations.
Yeah, those are closed negotiations.
Oh, yeah. And they probably should be.
Yeah,
I
right.
agree.
They have to be by law.
So there are 4 people, 4 city council members?
Correct,
Yes.
and a
4.
mayor. Yeah.
Okay. So if there is a tie, the mayor would
mayor.
vote to make or break a tie,
Correct.
I take it?
Correct.
Yeah.
Okay. It's pretty much like how most boards run.
Yes. Yes.
Yeah.
Yep.
So let me start with Steve. Let's get your phone number, and if anybody wants to contact you regarding a city issue,
Absolutely.
your phone number and your email.
It is on the city website, but you can reach me at 802-343-0718 or at my website at rphrn@comcast.net.
That's your email?
That's my email.
Okay,
currently. I have a city email, but right now it's in flux. So yeah, I've got an issue with it. So if they need to reach me, they can reach me that way.
And the city does have a website also,
Yes.
correct?
I do, and I believe it's svincent at newportcity.com, I think.
But I mean, the city itself has a
The city
website.
itself,
Yeah, we have a website, absolutely, yes.
newportvermont.org.
Org, I believe, yeah.
Okay. And how about you, Jack?
My
What's your-
phone number is 802, okay, make sure you have the right one, 323-3484. That's my
Okay.
cell phone number.
Okay, and your email?
The email is a city email, and I think it's Roberge at newportcity.com, I believe. The safest thing would be to go on a website.
The
like
website
that.
has it listed,
Yeah.
yeah. They have actually both our home phones and our cell phones listed, so.
Yeah. And I believe that's how I contacted Laura, was by going onto the city website, because I
right.
didn't know how to contact her.
Yeah, we can be tracked down pretty easily.
Well, our half hour is up, gentlemen. I want to tell you it's been a pleasure having you on, and I hope we can do this again. If you guys would like to make this a regular thing, I would love to have you on.
Sure. It was fun for us too, Terry. Thank you.
No, I enjoyed it.
And probably it's also a good thing for you guys, because this is your opportunity to, speak to the public informally, as opposed, when people can't make meetings
Absolutely.
or whatever.
Yeah, absolutely.
So I want to thank you.
You're welcome.
Thank you.
Terry.
This is Terry DeFazio for Dial It Up. We hope you enjoyed our show, and we'll catch you on the flip side. Bye now.